At 9:27 a.m. on December 13, 1943, Second Lieutenant Philip Adair pulled his Curtiss P-40 Warhawk into a climbing turn over Assam, India, as 64 Japanese aircraft materialized through the morning haze 3 miles east, heading directly for his base at Dinjan Airfield. The 23-year-old Adair had flown 43 combat missions with the 89th Fighter Squadron protecting the Hump airlift, but this morning, he was the only pilot airborne when the formation appeared. In the previous 8 weeks, Japanese raids on Allied airfields throughout northeast India had destroyed 47 transport aircraft on the ground and killed 112 personnel. His P-40, nicknamed Lulubelle and marked with the number 44, carried 6 50 caliber Browning machine guns and enough ammunition for approximately 12 seconds of sustained fire. The enemy formation consisted of 24 Mitsubishi Ki-21 Sally bombers, escorted by approximately 40 Nakajima Ki-43 Oscar fighters, arranged in layers above and below the bomber stream. Intelligence reports indicated that similar-sized raids in Burma had achieved 90% hit rates on undefended airfields. Below him, Dinjan Airfield housed 14 C-47 transport aircraft, loaded with critical supplies for Chiang Kai-shek's forces in China, a field hospital treating 63 wounded soldiers, and fuel stocks sufficient to support hump operations for 11 days. If the bombers reached the field unopposed, the damage would cripple Allied supply operations over the Himalayas for weeks. The nearest friendly fighters were 38 minutes away at their base in Jorhat. Adair checked his fuel gauge. Full internal tanks, 180 gallons. Approximately 90 minutes of flight time at combat power. The Japanese formation was 3,000 feet below him, moving at 240 miles per hour toward the airfield.
Standard doctrine called for fighter pilots to wait for reinforcements when outnumbered more than 5 to 1. Adair had 64 to 1 odds. He could radio for help and shadow the formation until support arrived. By then, the bombs would already be falling. Or he could attack alone and try to disrupt their bombing run. Adair pushed the throttle forward. His Allison V1710 engine responded immediately, the manifold pressure climbing to 54 inches. The P-40 accelerated to 320 miles per hour. He positioned himself 4,000 feet above the bomber formation, coming at them from the south with the sun behind him. The Oscars hadn't spotted him yet. Their attention was focused forward on the target. He had one advantage: surprise. The Japanese pilots expected fighters to meet them near the target, not 20 miles out. Adair planned his attack vector. Hit the lead bomber formation first. Ignore the fighters initially. Break their bombing accuracy. Make them scatter. Force them to abort the run. Can one P-40 disrupt 64 Japanese aircraft? Please like this video to see how this turns out. Subscribe for more stories, and let's continue. Back to Adair. The lead Sally bomber group flew in tight formation, 6 aircraft arranged in 2 Vs of 3. Adair rolled inverted, pulled the nose down, and dove at the bombers from their 7 o'clock high position. His airspeed built rapidly: 340 miles per hour, 360, 380. The P-40's Allison engine screamed at full power. Range closed fast. The bomber crews still hadn't seen him. At 800 yards, he opened fire. His 650s hammered, tracers arcing toward the lead bomber. Rounds walked up the Sally's left wing. Fabric tore, metal sparked. The bomber's port engine erupted in orange flame. Black smoke poured from the cowling. The formation broke. Bombers scattered left and right, their tight V dissolving into chaos. Adair pulled up hard, 7 Gs crushing him into a seat, and rolled right. 40 Oscar fighters were diving toward him. The Nakajima Ki-43 Oscar was one of the most maneuverable fighters in the Pacific Theater. Powered by a Nakajima HA-115 engine producing 1,150 horsepower, it could reach 329 miles per hour at 13,000 feet and execute turning circles tighter than any American fighter. The Oscar's butterfly combat flaps allowed it to bleed speed rapidly in turns without stalling. Japanese pilots exploited this advantage ruthlessly. In the previous 6 months, Oscars had shot down 63 Allied fighters over Burma and northeast India. Adair's P-40N was faster in a straight line,
but couldn't match the Oscar's turn rate. The Warhawk's Allison V1710-81 engine generated 1,240 horsepower at 3,000 RPM, giving the aircraft a maximum speed of 378 miles per hour below 12,000 feet. But in a sustained turning fight, the heavier American fighter would lose energy faster than the lightweight Japanese aircraft. Standard P-40 tactics against Oscars were simple. Never turn with them. Use speed. Hit and run. Extend away. Reset. Adair couldn't extend away. If he fled, the bombers would reform and complete their attack run on Dinjan. He had to keep pressure on the formation. Keep them scattered. Keep them nervous. Even if it meant fighting 40 Oscars alone. The first 4 Oscars came at him in a loose finger 4 formation from his 10 o'clock high. Adair rolled left, pulled the nose up, and fired a 2-second burst at the lead fighter. 50 caliber rounds missed high. The Oscar broke right. Its wingman followed. Adair reversed, diving away to maintain speed. 2 more Oscars dove from above. He saw them at 400 yards, pulled into a climbing left turn, fired again. No hits. His ammunition counter showed 800 rounds remaining across all 6 guns, approximately 6 more attacks at his current rate of fire. Behind the fighter screen, the Sally bombers were attempting to reform. 3 groups of 6 aircraft each were closing back into formation. If they achieved their bombing V again, they would press the attack. Adair had perhaps 90 seconds before they reached their release point over Dinjan. He rolled out, shoved the throttle to the stop, and dove toward the bombers again. 8 Oscars followed him down. The P-40 accelerated to 405 miles per hour in the dive. The Oscars couldn't match that speed. Adair opened the gap, pulled out at bomber altitude, and lined up on the right-hand Sally formation. Range 300 yards. He fired. Tracers converged on the lead bomber's right engine. The Mitsubishi HA-101 radial engine exploded in a fireball. The bomber rolled right, streaming fire and debris. Its wingman broke formation to avoid collision. Adair kicked rudder, skidded left, fired at another Sally. His rounds punched through the bomber's thin fuselage skin. The Ki-21 had no armor protection for the crew, no self-sealing fuel tanks. Designed in 1936, it was obsolete by 1943 standards. But it could still carry 2,205 pounds of bombs, enough to destroy everything on Dinjan Airfield. The Oscar fighters were closing again, 12 of them this time. Adair's fuel gauge showed 162 gallons remaining. His ammunition counter read 650 rounds. The bombers were 19 miles from Dinjan. He had perhaps 4 minutes before they reached drop range. Then his engine started overheating. The Allison V1710-81 was a liquid-cooled engine. Coolant circulated through passages in the cylinder heads and block, absorbing heat from combustion, then flowed through a radiator mounted beneath the fuselage. At combat power settings above 50 inches of manifold pressure, the engine generated extreme temperatures. The coolant system was designed to handle sustained operation at those settings for approximately 20 minutes. Adair had been running at full power for 11 minutes. His coolant temperature gauge showed 230 degrees Fahrenheit. Normal operating temperature was 210. At 250, the engine would begin to fail. He had 3 options: reduce power to let the engine cool, abandon the attack and return to base, or continue fighting and risk engine failure over hostile territory.